Welcome to Motherhood, everybody. It's me, Dr. Christina Hibbert, here to help you overcome, to become, and to flourish in this incredible experience we call motherhood. And yes, I emphasize the word flourish because today we're going to be talking about just that. It's one of my very favorite topics and something that I didn't really learn much about until I'd already been a psychologist for quite a while. And I started hearing about this positive psychology, which I think we studied just a tad in school, but really not. And it's all about the science of what makes us happy, what makes us healthy, what makes us vibrant, what makes us flourish. And so that's the focus we're going in today. And specifically, we're going to talk about one of the best tools of all for a flourishing life, which is the practice of gratitude. And how can you start, or if you're already doing it, continue, or maybe even improve or increase a daily morning gratitude practice? And our guest today has some experience with this personally, and she's starting a fabulous new project I can't wait to share with you. And I personally have experienced this too. So I know the power of gratitude. It works. And it's one of the very best and simplest things that we can do to make a huge change in our lives. So you better stick around and listen to today's episode, all of it, because it is going to be the one thing that can really, really change your life. And guess what? Because you're moms, when your life changes, your kids' lives change, right? So when you start doing this, then they're going to be better off too. And that's what we all want. Welcome to Motherhood 2.0, where we're taking motherhood to the next level. I'm Dr. Christina Hibbert, your host, clinical psychologist, speaker, author, and, oh yeah, mom of 6, and mother of the year for Arizona, here to help you overcome, to become, and yes, to flourish as we grow through motherhood together instead of just going through it on our own. Be sure to visit my website, drchristinahibbert.com, as well as join our Facebook group, Motherhood 2.0. All right, everybody, let's get growing. Now, as I was saying, gratitude, just on a little personal side note before we get started, one thing that I started doing years ago is a morning gratitude practice too. And really it was tied to my exercise. So whenever I'd go out walking, I started just doing this little practice in my head. And at first, I was doing it because I just wanted to, feel happier throughout the day. I wanted to have more energy, and I liked thinking of the things I was grateful for. So as I walk, I do a kind of a breath exercise first, and then I start thinking about all the things I'm grateful for. Like, I'm grateful for my toes and my feet, and that I can walk, and look at that. And oh, look at that bird. I'm grateful for you too. And, all these different things, and kind of go through as many as possible. But I have to tell you that it really didn't show me, I didn't realize how powerful the practice was until I was going through my most difficult times. And this was, before my sister had died, before we had inherited our 2 nephews, and before I became a mom of 6 and was in grief. And it became one of the things that I clung to. I just would cling to it because it was something I could do to get out of my house, to get out in the sunshine, to move my body, which are all obviously excellent tools for not only healing, but for just being healthy and well. But also I could get out of my emotional cave, I guess you would say. And really, some days, as you know, I know everybody out there, you've had those days where you have to search and dig and look for something to feel grateful for, because the gratitude isn't just automatically there because life is hard. So that's why I'm so excited about today and all of the things that our guest is doing and setting up for you, because it's a fabulous new resource out there. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Jen Smith. Jen, welcome to Motherhood.
Thank you so much, Christy. It is such a pleasure to be here. And oh my gosh, to hear some of the things that you have just shared are bringing up so many memories for me and feelings and such resonance with what you're sharing about your gratitude practice and even just the very basics of it, right? I'm grateful for my toes. I'm grateful for my feet that I can go on this walk, and how for many people, that's exactly how it begins. This basic, very simple, fundamental practice. And we call it a practice because it's not easy at first, right? We have to consciously be cultivating that work in our lives and looking around us, for things that probably have always been there, that
Yes.
maybe we just haven't taken time to really stop and actually notice and then take a moment to savor.
I love that.
So
I love
it
that.
was,
Beautiful way to introduce people to you with your beautiful words here. Before we get started, talking more about this, because I know you do have some personal experience too that kind of drove you into this work. And I want to hear all about that. So let me first just share a little bit about your background and history with everybody. So Jennifer Smith is the founder and facilitator of the Flourish Lab. Guys, this is a brand new website, community, movement, I guess you'd say, that she has started. I can't wait to hear all about how this came to be today. And you guys can go to theflourishlab.com and find out more, including her Grateful Morning program for women, which we will talk about today as well. And it's kind of like, that's what it reminded me of, that what I was doing, what you're trying to do. It's so great. So she uses this platform to teach and guide women in understanding how gratitude can transform the way you feel about your lives. And through a difficult personal trial, she was introduced to the power of gratitude. And like a moth to a flame, she absorbed all she could. And now she's using it to learn all she can and to help others find this great joy through learning applied positive psychology, the science of human flourishing. And now she's leading and guiding women in understanding this power of the universal principle and just how to apply it in your own lives for miraculous change. So like I said, if that doesn't catch you, I don't know what will, guys. Right? Okay. So Jennifer, Jen, I know you've emailed me both, right? So what do you prefer?
Yeah. Oh, please call me Jen.
Okay,
absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
I know, because I'm Christina, but I'm like, call me Christy, please. So yeah. Same thing. So let's just start with that. Like, I mean, this is a new venture for you. You were just sharing, you have a whole different career, and this is something new, and you've had this personal journey with gratitude. And how it can affect you, and then how it can relate to women in general. So why don't you start with just a little bit about that experience and kind of what brought you to this?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it'd be such a pleasure to share this. I mean, we're going back probably a few years ago now, and I mean, time has become this beautiful thing for me, because it's not until that time passes that we're able to have that introspection, of what's occurred, where we've been, who's come along that journey with us. But going back a few years ago now, I found myself in this personal trial that, gosh, not many women think that they're going to find themselves in. And it was a period of time in my life where I had a lot of good going on. I have my sisters live in the city with me here. I've got these beautiful nieces and nephews. I had a great job at this cute apartment. But I wasn't feeling very grateful for this trial in my life and some big decisions that I had to make with my marriage at the time. And so some time had passed, and I sort of found myself in this kind of sense of ambivalence. One day I woke up and I knew exactly what I should do, and then the next day I woke up and no idea what I was going to do. And I sat there for probably a few months, and I was told that was normal, and just to stay with it and to just be with the feelings. So probably, I would say it was probably a couple of months after that, I was introduced to a kind of a teleseminar series on gratitude and generosity. And it was a free 4-week series that a friend of mine puts on. It's a free sort of generous program that she does for people every year. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to hop on the personal development train. I have no idea what to expect with this. And I really hadn't done much work in that area at all in my life. But I'm just going to, see what happens. And oh my gosh, like when you said like a moth to a flame, like I remember when I kind of wrote that and I used those words, I thought that's the only way I can describe what happened to me. Yeah. I was starting to understand, it was a total new language. And I was starting to hear things about the practice of gratitude and what it could do for my life. And it was almost like, yeah, right.
Yeah,
right. That can change my life. Like I didn't believe it. Like simply expressing gratitude for XYZ is going to change the way that I feel right now in my current circumstances. Okay, I'm going to put it to the test.
Wow.
And I did. My whole life I've been a writer, and so I've got probably 13 full journals in my closet of the last decade of my life. And so writing for me is breathing, and anyone who knows me well knows that writing it is a joy for me, but also a release for me, and it anchors new learning for me. So I got out this beautiful new notebook that I purchased, and these pretty pens, and I just started writing anything that I felt a connection with during these calls in this journal, and then I would go back and I would review it. And I committed to a very basic kind of like what I like to call almost like a level 1 or just a very beginner's gratitude practice. And every night before I would go to bed, I would take out this journal and I would write at minimum 3 things that I was grateful for. And there was nothing that I could do. I think this is the most important thing to note for me in that experience, is that there was nothing that I could do in that trial of my life to change my circumstances. What had happened. There was no reversal. It felt like it was etched in stone. It felt like, someone had contributed to a story now that I had to own or live up to that I didn't choose. Right?
Yeah.
And so when I'm thinking about the things that I'm grateful for, it is very basic. Like, I'm really grateful for this comfy bed. I'm really grateful for this little apartment and that I love the color I picked for the walls. I'm really grateful that I was able to make myself dinner tonight. Like, just such simple things. And I remember during that time, my full-time work, I poured myself into my work, like 60, 70 hour weeks. And I just dumped every bit of energy that I had, so that I didn't have to really deal with what I was dealing with.
Yes.
And very slowly but surely, this gratitude practice began to actually just to flourish. I guess that's the only word I can really think of, because my list got longer. And the things that I was writing that I was grateful for were starting to feel a little bit unique. Like, I remember one day walking out of my apartment, and I walked out. It was sort of like a basement apartment, but the side door that I walked out was right onto this little sidewalk. And I still have the picture in my mind. I still have the picture today. But I walked outside and I saw, it was almost like, I don't know if it was like an oil stain or just water or what it was, but I remember looking down and going, oh my gosh, that's a heart.
Oh,
It's just like,
beautiful.
I remember taking out my iPhone and taking a photograph of like my feet and my shoes right next to this little heart. And then I remember posting on Instagram about it. And then I remember, like, I'm really grateful that I got to see a heart the first thing that I walked out of my apartment door today. And so I started to notice all of these little things that, gosh, just months ago would have just blown right past me.
Yeah.
And so that's when I started to feel this shift. And it's been a long time, right? But it's even still difficult for me today to bring up a phone call that I made to my mom. And I said, Mom, I actually feel grateful for what happened today.
Wow.
Because of the shifts that I'm feeling in my life, and the changes and the positive contributions that are coming into my life that I feel like I'm attracting because of this different mindset. I'm grateful for it today, and I wouldn't change it. And I remember, I will never forget that conversation, because that was the day, that was the brand new day, right? That was the day when I could begin to talk about what had happened, and feel a sense of, I understand that there's purpose. And even though I don't see it all yet, I can certainly see the purpose to date with that experience.
Wow. I love this story. It is so beautiful and so true and so real. And I know everybody listening, we all have times like this that we can relate, where you have to make that decision. Am I going to stay in this place of misery or pain or heartache or whatever it might be, or am I going to try something new? And I love that you were courageous enough to say, I'm going to experiment on this thing that I don't actually believe can happen, but I'm going to believe that maybe it's possible that it could happen, right?
Yeah.
And give it a try, because I think of so many of us have those moments where you have to decide, and you chose that better path, and look what a difference it's made. I mean, amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Gosh, choice is the greatest gift we've ever been given, because that is the only thing that enables us to make a change. And it always starts on the inside. It's the hardest work you'll ever do in your whole life, but it is the most rewarding.
That's so great. And I so totally agree with you. And I love that you pointed out, because I know a lot of people can relate to what you said about, and I alluded to it too, that you don't have to feel totally grateful for every little thing in your life to start.
Yeah.
Right? I think a lot of times when we're talking about gratitude, people think, well, yeah, that might be nice for those people who feel grateful about things, but like, you're living proof. You don't have to feel that to just start to look for something that you're comfortable, that you're safe, that you're, whatever. I mean, just start with something very basic and notice it. Really, it's more about noticing the things you're grateful for than even like being overwhelmed with this feeling of gratitude right at the beginning.
Oh,
but then quickly 100%. It progresses to that, doesn't it?
It does. And I mean, we talk about that in the work that I did in my positive psychology course. One of the most counterproductive things to actually feeling grateful is this notion that you should feel grateful. And I remember it's the cutest sentence, and you'll probably giggle when I tell you this, but it was like, we just need to stop shitting all over ourselves.
Yes, I love that.
And it's this notion of like, no, I shouldn't feel grateful. It's like, I get to feel grateful, right? Yes. I don't have to feel grateful for this thing in my life, or I get to feel grateful. And it's the worst when, it's the difference between like, Brené Brown has this beautiful little clip around empathy. And it's like a sketch of this little monologue that she does. But it's about how, when bad things happen and people react to us and say, oh, well, at least you still have, this in your life. At least you still have a job. At least you still have your children. At least you can get pregnant. Right.
At
least you were married once, even though now you're divorced and you never expected that. It's the most powerful thing that we can do with others when they're experiencing tragedy or loss, and sometimes it's just the loss of a story, and that's real pain, right?
Yes.
That we feel that.
It's all real.
Yes, and we've got to sit with it.
Yes,
we can't push it aside. We've just got to sit with it for a little while. But in that little video, I'll never forget. It's just this moment of sharing with a friend, like, I'm so grateful you told me. Thank you for trusting me.
Yeah,
and that allows two people to remain in that space together and to not, put a kink in the hose.
Yeah, I love that. Not put a kink in the hose, because that happens all the time. Because you get hurt almost by that, and it's a generous thing. They're trying to be helpful, and in the world of grief and loss, I know that doesn't always feel helpful when somebody's saying that. But if you can have this new lens of, you're right. You're right. I am grateful for that. And thank you for pointing that out to me, because right in this moment, I'm not feeling that, and I don't have to feel it, but at least I can see it, or you can help me see it. Right.
Yeah.
So you've said a couple of things so far that I want to kind of emphasize, and then we'll talk about some of the different levels of gratitude, and really want to tell people about, your morning practice of gratitude and what you've been doing. So, just first, for everybody listening, one thing that Jen has experienced and is talking about and sharing is, like we were just emphasizing, start today, start right now. Yes. And it doesn't require any materials or any education or any training, right? Just right now, you could sit and write down 3 things. Like you said, it was just 3 things or even 5 things, or whatever you want to do, just to notice 3 things that you're grateful for today. So that's one, is that you don't, she's making the point that we don't have to be at a certain place or should do this or that. We just have to begin, right? Mm-hmm. And experiment on it while you're doing it, right? Yeah. And then the other point is that, like you were just, no, I'm totally spacing. Okay. See, this is where I edit stuff out. Why did I just totally lose my train of thought? Because I was totally just, okay. And I keep saying totally. What was I just saying? Oh my gosh. What were you just talking about? Hello? What were you just saying? Like, my brain just went totally blank.
Oh my gosh. I can't.
Let me think. In the practice, noticing, starting, and...
Counterproductive, or no?
The shoulds. I guess you were talking about the shoulds, but... Oh, okay. This probably wasn't what I was going to say, but this is something that we can point out. Okay. So the other point of what you were just saying with the shoulds and all of that is that, and I was just doing this morning I was talking about this on a live Facebook broadcast, because how many times do we take what we have and then compare it to somebody else.
Oh,
We compare it, and either way, either we think, gosh, we're so much better off than somebody else, or we're so much worse off than somebody else. Or this morning I was talking about, I had this just gut-wrenching experience this morning with a friend of mine who's dying of cancer and had to send her son. He left on a mission for our church, and he walked away from her knowing he's never going to see her again this morning, and everybody there was just like, how do you do this? And it was his choice. He wanted to go. He could have waited. And just watching them wave goodbye, and everybody's in tears. And I'm like, how do you? And even at the same moment, he looked back at his mom, because it's a small airport where we live, and you can see in the windows to the gate, and then they go out the door to get on the plane. And he looked back one last time and looked at his mom, and she was sitting in her wheelchair. She's just, frail and weak. And he looked back and looked like he was about to cry. And she just took her little face and just went, and moved her face into a smile. Just like, okay, I'm smiling. You can smile. We can be grateful for this moment. And even in the act of him doing that, it was such courage, because he's grateful for the opportunity to get to go and to serve and to help people. 19-year-old kid, and yet here's his mom, and she's grateful that he's going, and she's grateful for people that are there. And, everybody could see the gratitude and feel the love, but my gosh, it was so hard. And so then you see that, and then you think, well, nothing I have to deal with is that painful for her, right? Right. And so we minimize sometimes, I think, what we're going through. And also we can sometimes minimize our own gratitude, gosh, well, I don't have that much to be grateful for because I'm not going through that, or whatever it might be. Or I should be in this place and I'm not, so I guess I can't feel grateful for this or that. Or if I'm unhappy, I can't feel some joy still. The point is, you can have both, right? Your story is a perfect example of that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing, because science has shown us that a gratitude practice before a trial hits your life actually will build your resiliency to not only deal with that trial in a more effective way for your well-being and those around you, but it will carry you through that trial quicker. You won't get stuck within it, right? You will be able to flow through it. And gosh, I understand so intimately how hard that can be to believe when you are entering the period of trial. I get that. Yeah. The empathy that I hold for that space with any woman is true and authentic. And for that today, I can now express that deep, abiding gratitude for that, almost that testimony that I have, that until you gain your own, lean on mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I am just like every other, woman in her mid-30s out there, just making life and having fun and experiencing heartache and then finding joy on the other side of that, because I committed to do the work.
Yeah.
And it's that joy is not handed to us. Mm-hmm. And really, Christy, thank goodness for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. Because when you don't work for it, you don't appreciate it.
You don't appreciate it. Mm-mm. Yes.
That's so true. So wise. And I really appreciate what you just said. And I hope everybody heard that if you can't believe it yourself, believe what Jen's saying, believe what I'm saying. I say that all the time too. If you don't believe that you're amazing, wonderful, whatever, at least believe that I can see that in you. Because I'm not lying. We're not lying here. This stuff really can help.
No, this is just the truth tank right here.
Truth tank right here. I love that. So how did you come up with, I guess tell us about the morning practice that you have for women, the morning gratitude, and what's that entail? And, kind of let's go from there. Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, so it's called the Grateful Morning. And gosh, this is such a fun story. Because before the realization of the Grateful Morning, I had spent probably 3 to 6 months in total ambiguity of what is it that women need? I had this big funnel, right, of just all of this information from the field of positive psychology, specifically around the science of gratitude and resilience, and for women, that's the group of people that I really want to be able to share this with and support in this life. Mm-hmm. But I had no clue, this huge funnel of stuff. And I just thought, what's going to come out the other end? Because I just didn't know. And so, I spent a lot of time myself early in the morning with my own morning practice, and trying to get still and to just let that surface and to kind of watch what was happening around me. And there was times when I got really frustrated with it, and it was like, forget it. I can't seem to, figure it out. So maybe I'm not meant to do anything.
Yeah.
And gosh,
when you start to doubt,
question.
Right.
And like the procrastination monster and that perfectionism monster starts going, loud in your head. And then, like most things in my life, I kind of threw the proverbial hands up, and it was like, okay, I'm just going to wait.
Just wait.
And trust.
So good.
And just hold the belief that something will come.
I love that.
And so I've been doing this for probably about a year and a half now. And no, I don't get up every day at 5 o'clock in the morning. I got a lot of people who look at me and they're like, are you crazy? You really every single day.
On purpose? What? Yeah.
The first question people ask is like, what time do you have to go to bed?
Yeah.
It's not so much that they're concerned that they might have to get up at 5 to do this. It's like, well, okay, what time do I have to go to sleep?
Yes.
And then how is my night going to change? And oh my gosh, I have kids. This feels impossible.
Yes.
And it's like, well, just hold the belief that something is possible, that you can change even just one thing for yourself.
That's right.
So I have a vision board, and I've been keeping a vision board now for a few years. And I remember a couple years ago, I printed out this thing from Google, and it was just this picture. It said 5 a.m. miracle. And I had heard some little slogan years past, just like the 5 a.m. club or the 5 a.m. morning people, or are you one of those 5 a.m.ers? And I was like, ooh, no, I'm not.
I shudder to think. Yeah.
I totally have. I'm actually not a morning person. Thank you very much. Your day. And so I remember having this on my vision board, and it was just, I didn't know if I'd ever really get up at 5, but I just aspired to be somebody who could get up in the morning and feel good.
Oh yeah, that's nice. I like that. It's like a realistic goal.
Totally. I'm like, I just kind of want to feel like it. I don't really know what that looks like, but
yeah.
So I stumbled across kind of a podcast, from someone about a year and a half ago, and she was talking about something called the Beautiful Life Blueprint.
Oh.
And this blueprint was, here's all your goals and your dreams, and what do you have to do to actually kind of get things down to a granular level on a daily basis, so that the activities you're doing on a daily basis are actually lending to your big goals and dreams. And it starts with getting up first thing in the morning. And in that period of stillness, what are you choosing to do, consciously choosing to do for yourself, that will make a difference in your life? And it was like, the light bulbs went on, and I thought, I'm going to try this. Because this seems like, if you want me to do something, it's like, give me a checklist and leave me alone, and I'll get it done.
As we women do so beautifully. Yes.
We're all saying, like, check, scratch it off. Like, gosh, I feel write stuff on a whiteboard, and like that I've done, and then like just cross it off with such satisfaction and leave it there.
I love it.
And so I committed to trying to get up at 5 o'clock, and I followed her method of creating this morning routine, and there was so much science behind it. She had talked about, how Mark Zuckerberg from Facebook only wears the gray shirt and the dark pants or something, and Steve Jobs from Apple would only wear a black shirt and jeans, and all this was doing was reducing decision fatigue. And gosh, if there's anything that women, like moms, non-moms, whoever, deals with and suffers from in these days, is the amount of decisions.
So true. And that is a real thing, everybody, by the way, decision fatigue. I mean, think about all the choices you have to make in a day, especially you moms out there listening. I know you have to make choices for you and your kids a lot of the time. So it's exhausting, right? That's a real thing. Yeah.
And so I crafted this routine, and, it was so specific. I mean, I would get out of bed, my feet would hit the floor, and I would sit there on my bed with my feet on the floor, and I would say 3 things that I was grateful for in my mind. And I mean, I'm like half asleep, dead to the world, even though I get up at 5 doesn't mean I get up at dinner every time.
You're up. You're not necessarily totally awake, but you're up.
Right.
Yes, that's right.
And then it was this pathway through my home that I had created. I'd go to the washroom, and then I would come back out, and I would go to the kitchen, and I would put water in the kettle to steep, and then I would fill a diffuser, and I would turn that on, and flick on the gas fireplace, and then I would go back to my room and I'd make my bed, and then I'd brush my teeth, and then I'd wash my face. And it was literally like clockwork. And it was something that I had I dug a trench, right? You do something so many times, you anchor the habit, and then you have dug a trench. I mean, that can be for positive or negative. So we've got to be careful what we keep doing and we keep saying yes to. But I began to develop something that became second nature. And there were mornings where I would drag myself out of bed, and there were mornings where I would wake up and I would literally feel myself kind of just like gliding to the bathroom. Like I felt such joy to be up before like 95% of my condo building was awake.
Yes, it's a beautiful thing.
There was just something magical. And so I had lived and breathed this practice for about 1.5 years. So that's all sort of a preamble to how the Grateful Morning came about.
So let me say a couple things before you go on, because this is good.
Because I can talk forever.
First, I loved what you said about the trench. I mean, that is a beautiful visual for everybody listening to remember. You know, what kind of trenches are we digging here? And like you said, are they the negative ones with the negative patterns and negative habits, or can we start to build? Because just like in my mind, I could see you kind of walking through I don't even know anything about where you live, but in my mind, you were probably in my house in my mind. But anyway, walking around, having your routine. And I also wanted to say for moms, like I know many of you out there listening and thinking, well, how do I do that when I've got little kids that are waking me up at the crack of dawn, or baby that I'm up with, or whatever. And you're right. Sometimes of our lives, we can't maybe be up at 5 or 6 or whatever. And sometimes we have to kind of tweak that. But the point is that we all can add some little time and carve out that space. And I have to say, moms, like we can't use it as an excuse that we're tired because of our kids, because I know I've used that as an excuse before, and it's true, we're tired, but also I know that when I make myself get up before I know the kids are going to get up, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes earlier, then it's on your terms. You're not just waiting around for somebody else to do this. And then you do wake up feeling better because you're taking control. You're managing your life instead of you feeling managed by your time, your schedule, your kids, all that other stuff that might come up. So I love this. And then start digging that new trench. Like what would your ideal morning look like? And how much time can you give yourself? Okay, then get up that amount earlier and start to do that habit. If it doesn't happen every day, oh well, at least you're digging that trench. So so beautiful. So tell us about the morning gratitude ritual. Wait, what was it called?
The Grateful Morning.
Grateful Morning. Yes, I was thinking that's such a beautiful title. Okay, I thought I'm butchering this. The Grateful Morning. What does that look like?
All good. As long as there's just the word gratitude or grateful somewhere in there, we can call it whatever we want. But so I designed sort of like I tweaked my routine for 2018, and I just posted this chicken scratch copy of this new morning routine on my Instagram account. So Instagram has been actually just a beautiful platform for me for the last few years.
That's how I found you.
Yeah, it's so true. Yes, it is.
I find my best guests on Instagram. I just find the best people there. So.
Christy, if I could tell you how many internet friends I have made.
I know, right? And they're truly like good friends, good people, right? I mean, just.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. It's so funny because I was just in Arizona, like just before you and I connected. 2 weeks actually was in Gilbert, just before you and I connected. I was. And I was there, and I had met for the first time this beautiful friend that I have, and we met through Instagram.
Oh my gosh! So quickly, Instagram is at the Flourish Lab.
At the Flourish Lab, yes.
There we go. Yes. So everybody can go follow Jen on Instagram.
Thank you so much. Yes, I mean we, try as best I can to post to post daily, right? So that there's something, that there's a message of positivity every single day. I know that for me that's the most important thing. On my feed, that it's positive content coming through. So
absolutely.
So I posted this chicken scratch copy, and I got like all of this attention, and people were really digging into like very specific pieces, like what is this one thing that you do, or what does this mean, and what does this mean? Do you really get up at 5 o'clock?
Oh, wow.
And I was like, let me expand. And yes, I do, and yes, I do go to bed earlier. But here's why I do it.
Yes.
Because people, at the end of the day, the only thing that's going to convert anyone to anything new is your why. Why you do it, what it's done for you, right? How it's changed your life.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up getting real brave, and I thought, you know what? I've had a lot of people ask me about this. I'm just going to do a Facebook Live on my personal Facebook page. Like, oh my gosh. And
Putting
I'm
yourself out
just
there.
going to talk about it because
Yeah.
I just can't convey in like Facebook messages or text messages, or I just can't convey the why of this. I've just got to get on there on video.
Yeah.
Well, that video was the catalyst to the creation of the Grateful Morning Facebook group.
Oh, I love it.
I had about 10 friends originally who I thought, you know, if I have 10 women who want to do this, I can help facilitate this group. I mean, this is my life. This is what I love. And I'd be happy to be that accountability partner for them. Within a period of 3 weeks, Christy, we had 10 women, and the group exploded to 133 women.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it.
And, you know, no, not every single woman was actively participating in the group and following the guidelines and creating the Grateful Morning practice for themselves. But I got feedback from people. They're like, I've never commented, but I just want you to know I've watched and looked at everything.
Oh, I love that.
So, you know, they're kind of like peeking in on it, and they're just dipping their toe in, like, I'm just absorbing what you're saying, even though I don't know that I can really do this right now.
Yeah.
And so I agreed for a period of 3 weeks to guide women through the creation of their own routine, what that could look like, what they could add into their mornings. There was a lot of inspiration in the group, a lot of high accountability with people. And I had some people who were so positively transformed by the dedication to just being still in the morning. And there's no other way to say it because that's what it was, right? Just stillness. You know, that they had sent me some private messages around some really, you know, difficult trials that they were going through or experiences that they had come up against that they were able to find peace with. They were able to have answers surface for them in those moments of stillness in the morning. That starts gratitude to be able to help them along that pathway.
So great. So it's not so much like here's exactly what you do, but like helping women to the point is to do something.
Yeah.
And to set it up in a way that's going to work for you, and then you help guide these women. You've helped guide these women through that.
Yeah, you know, and it was I'm glad that you say that because it's really important to mention here that it wasn't women adopting my routine.
Yeah.
Yes, there were like components, I think, that you know landed with people that resonated, like, oh, she does that. I'd like to try that because I think that would benefit my life or my health or XYZ, right?
Yeah, right.
But the one thing to note is that every single woman's home experience is different. Every single woman's emotional well-being is different.
Yeah.
And we're all, you know, we've all got stuff that we're coming up against. But how can you create a morning that's custom to you that you're just like okay with? It doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right?
So good.
What can we do to just change the onset of our days?
Yeah.
And through every, you know, I went back through the Facebook group before we did this interview together, and I was reminded that even though I created and led this group and walked these women through this journey, every single woman that cultivated this practice, that provided, you know, feedback to me on their experience and the profound changes that they had experienced, every single one of those women were a mom.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Every single. And I don't have my own children.
Yeah.
I have 6 beautiful nieces and nephews who, when I'm with them, I'm totally a mom.
Yeah, of course.
I am in my own life. And so it was so empowering for me to realize, like, all of the women in that group were showing each other how to do it with kids.
I love it.
And I mean, one woman, she's a dear friend of mine, and the changes for her with this program were astounding. But she began practicing her morning affirmations with her daughter.
Oh,
and she sent me this beautiful, little video.
Because you can incorporate your kids. You could do it together as a family or do it with one or more of your children. Yeah, that's so great.
And another one of them, she wrote me and she said, you know, I do my affirmations when I go to the bus stop with my daughter. And so I actually say something and then she repeats it. And she said, just one day she wrote me and she said, I just want to share with you, before my daughter got on the bus today, after we said these affirmations, I looked at her and I said, is there anything else that you would like to say today? And her daughter just looked at her and she said, it's going to be a great day.
Oh, so sweet.
And she got on the bus and she said, you know, my daughter and I don't ever have that type of time together. And so it's finding these opportunities, and then it's sharing it with the group of women and saying, this is what works for me. And then we get to build, right? We get to build on one another. Learn from each other.
Yeah. I love that. And I think it's so important to know for everybody listening, like this is an individual process, you know, and that's totally what you're saying. And that's what you're trying to teach. And I think it's really important because all of us, like you said, are so unique. And so you can do it in your own way. The point is to take the point and start working on it, right? So let's talk about, in our last, few minutes here, 3 levels of gratitude. And, so some different ideas for maybe like where we begin and how we can go deeper into the gratitude that can be helpful. I mean, obviously you've mentioned a lot of things already, like getting up early is really helpful and doing it first thing in the day, because then you have it throughout all the day. Sometimes like I'll do that with my exercise, but at the end of the day, I like to get my journal out and then go back and write about the things that I was grateful for that day that happened. So, I mean, both, that can be fine.
Yeah.
You can do it in a journal. You can do it just in your head. You could do it on your phone. You could record yourself saying it. You could do it with your family, by yourself, while you're praying, while you're meditating, just totally doing it random without anything else. I mean, whatever you like. But there's different like layers, I guess, of gratitude. Mm-hmm. So level 1 gratitude would be kind of what?
Well, when I first started, we talked a lot about primers in the work that I did in that positive psychology, and that if you want to anchor a new habit, like you have to instill a primer in your life. Mm-hmm. And so I put this primer on my iPhone, and every day at 5 p.m., this alarm would go off, and it would say, "What are you grateful for in this moment?" Mm-hmm. And you know what? 5 o'clock was the most brilliant time to do it because I was depleted. I was hungry. I was like, if there were difficult conversations at work, they were lingering. It was in transition. 5 o'clock is like total transition, right? From the majority of the day to the rest of the evening. And so no matter where I was, this alarm would go off and I would know exactly what it was. And there were days when I'm like, I can't do it, and then I would just ignore it. But then it would sit there like this thing. And I would just, until I could get out the 3 things that I was grateful for, it wouldn't pass. And that was my very beginning, right? My level 1 is just this basic expression of, regardless of what's happening, even if it's the best day ever, right? I mean, or the worst day ever, what am I grateful for in this moment that I'm not seeing right now?
Great question. What am I grateful for in this moment that I'm not seeing right now? Everybody remember that, write that down, put it on a card, put it on your phone.
Yes, absolutely.
Set a reminder.
And then, and then I got to be this like annoying gratitude girl where, someone around me would be complaining and it's like, okay, I hear you. That's hard. Okay, now please share with me 3 things you're grateful for. Yes. I would only do it with the people that loved me a lot because they would laugh, right? And they'd be like, oh, okay. I'm like, just basic stuff. You're wearing a really nice top today. I'd be grateful for,
Yes.
But it would create this sense of lightness, Christy, in people around you. And it really would show that like, I care about you and I hear you and like, let's help move you out of, this place that you're in or this dark place that you're in.
So good. So simple. Okay, so level 1, just basic, right? Basic gratitude, set a reminder, do it in a way that you won't forget. And I really appreciated your tip there on picking times when you're going to need it most, to remind yourself, because that is very helpful. Can give you energy that you didn't know you had right when you need it most.
It can, 100%. Yeah, and then increase, right, that sense of resilience for like whatever the rest of the day will bring to you. Yeah.
So true. So what would a level 2 look like then?
So then level 2 for me really was being able to express, this really brought the sense of hope and belief and possibility into my life. As I'm now, a couple of years ago, I went through the process of divorce. And so now I am, daily expressing gratitude for things that I don't have yet in my life that I deeply desire. Desires that have been with me through my whole marriage and then the end of my marriage. Mm-hmm. And then now moving into a space in my life where it's like I'm dating and it's like, it's just, right. You don't really think like, oh, that's where I'm going to be at this period of my life.
Yeah.
And so, so it's this belief or this expression, which can feel kind of fake sometimes, right? Because you haven't seen the physical manifestation of the things that you're trying to develop that felt sense of gratitude for.
I love that. I say that all the time, like with prayer, like powerful prayer, your prayer. Don't just pray, please help me with this or please help me with that, but say, I know that I'm going to overcome this. I know that you can help me do this. I know that this is going to happen. Now, help me know what next step to take, or help me to have a good attitude, or help me to see the good stuff while I'm trying to do that, or whatever it might be. So I love that, kind of just like see the best and expect it almost. And then you can kind of just start to look at, okay, and what's my one step right now that I'm going to take in that direction, right?
Yeah, exactly. What can I do right now? And a big thing for me, I mean, prayer is a huge part of my life. And so often a sentence that will show up in a prayer for me is, I'm grateful for the opportunities that I don't yet know are mine today.
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah.
Grateful for the opportunities that I don't yet know are mine. We don't know their opportunities yet, but they're still there just because we don't know it.
They're still there. We just haven't seen them yet. Or I'm grateful for that one conversation that I meant to have today, even though I don't know who it's with.
Oh, yes.
And really, it's changing the vibrational energy in your body. It's putting you in a place of receiving to be able to go out in the world with curiosity and I wonder what's going to happen today.
Yeah, you're watching for it instead of just like not even thinking about it and waiting around for it to like hit you over the head.
Right.
And half the time we miss it anyway, right? Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes that 2x4 does come, but
yes,
it hurts a lot less, Christy, when you're ready for it.
You're kind of at least on the lookout, and then it hits you. Then you're like, okay, I was expecting that.
I asked for that.
I did ask for that, but okay, yes, that's true. Yeah. Very good. Yeah.
So the level 2 really is, and in those periods, in those darkest periods of our life, it is so difficult to believe that something else is possible. And I recognize that, and I felt that deeply in my life. And so to be able to transition to a place where like there is possibility, and I don't know what it is, but I'm okay with that. And I'm okay with waiting and wondering, and I'm just going to like live in this space for a little while and see how that feels. Yeah. So great. And
okay.
So that's level
so that's level 2. That's pretty big. And so powerful. And I really hope everybody heard that and you'll ponder that and think, if you don't feel like you can do that already, then start working toward that, to be grateful for the things, the blessings that haven't even come yet, that you've just been longing for. And you just feel the gratitude already, even though it's not in front of you, right? Okay, and so level 3.
So level 3. And this is where, it takes time to get to this place. And it was not an overnight thing for me. Today, it feels like a gift that I have worked, I guess, to earn. Maybe that's the best way to describe it. But divorce is not the only trial, that I have to experience in this life. Yeah. And there's been many things that have come after that I've had to work through and emotionally navigate and create, a sense of resilience for. But it's being in the middle of that. And the middle is, the middle makes no sense. We know we're not through it yet when it's cloudy and confusing and we just don't understand, because the middle makes no sense. And it's only coming towards the end that we begin that clarity and that, we can have peace in that messy middle. I can promise people that we can have peace even though we don't know what the outcome is. But the level 3 is that, the moment that trial enters your life, or you see yourself stepping into this, like a new dimension, is to be able to offer almost that prayer, that sentiment of gratitude that, okay, this is here and I'm up against this and I have no idea why I'm here, but I'm grateful for this opportunity. I'm grateful for this experience. This is new and it's uncomfortable and I'm confused, but I'm grateful for what's going to come of this, because if we can develop this trust that life is happening for us and it's not happening to us, then it changes everything.
Yes, so true.
Yeah.
I love that. I keep thinking of the phrase that I would use all the time, that that it's not an obstacle, it's the opportunity. So being able to see the obstacle as the opportunity it's hard when you're in it, like you said. I testify of that too. I know you and I have both been through a lot of things. Everybody listening, y'all know how that feels. When it's just like, no, but you don't get it. Like the obstacles just keep coming. But also, no, but you don't get it. The opportunities just keep coming. You know, like I always say, when you're thrown in the mud, you can just be all muddy and sink in and be miserable, or you can plant yourself and grow into something better. And it's the very soil that makes you able to do that, right? Like that thing is the thing that makes you able to I always say I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing had I not had this experience of my sister and brother-in-law dying and having all these kids and having to become a mom in this. I certainly wouldn't be writing a book called Mastery of Motherhood. I have had to work hard to feel like I could ever even master something like motherhood. But boy, and that is a big level 3 that can just, that can change your life right there. Just that mindset shift, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's exactly what it is. It is and that's the work that begins on the inside. It is the mindset shift. And that's, when I go back to say it's that choice and that agency to choose is our greatest gift. And I think so many of us underestimate the power of making a choice and taking control of the thoughts that, will control us in a second.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's the choice, really. Do you want to just, if you don't take responsibility, then you fall prey to just randomness, whatever's happening in your life randomly, then you're just at that whim. But, there's a great quote by Brendan Burchard. He says, when you leave your time or your energy or your thoughts to randomness, you steal from your greatness.
Wow.
Isn't that true?
Oh, I love that.
If you want to be great, you can't live according to randomness. You got to plan and purposefully put the gratitude. And gratitude's such a great way to start because it's one thing that's so simple that can be so profound.
Yeah.
And you can start small or big, like you said.
Well, it's that I love that quote by Jim Rohn. It says either you run the day or the day runs you.
Oh, so good.
And I can testify, and so can many of these moms in the Grateful Morning Facebook group that where it all originated, was that this gave them the power to feel like, hey, I think I can run my day. I think I can decide how I feel and how I approach the situations and the challenges that I come up against. And so, that's the work that will, be moving forward in the Flourish Lab is that virtual program for women to be able to come together. Gosh, Christy, I had a friend who joined the Grateful Morning Facebook group. She's in Uganda. I had another friend who I grew up with in Canada who was in Ireland. And they're like, we're on crazy time zones, but we're here and we're in it.
Oh, that's
and
so cool.
It went. I remember the day I was like, ladies, we've gone international. This is
We've gone international. I love it.
It was so much fun.
Great.
So, it's something I'm just so eager to continue to just share with women that you have got the power. You have got the power, my dear. Yeah.
You have got the power. That's a great way to wrap up, everybody. I hope everybody listening hears that and lets it sink in that you have got the power. When you're feeling powerless or helpless, it's just a lie. Really, the power is with you to decide. Yeah. I love it. So the flourishlab.com, and they can go and find out more about the Grateful Morning group. You're going to continue this? And
Yes, you bet. Absolutely.
Awesome. So you can go and be part of the group and learn and practice gratitude and experiment for yourself to see what gratitude can do for you and how it can change your life. So go to theflourishlab.com, find out more information there. You can learn more about Jennifer Smith there as well. And follow her on Instagram at the Flourish Lab. Right?
Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, it was such a joy.
Thank you. So are you. I loved hearing your story and your insights. And this is just, I really appreciate you sharing this because I am totally a believer in what you said and everything you said. I just want to echo for everybody out there. So, listen to Jen's story. I know you've heard me tell my stories millions of times. Everybody has their own stories. And just focusing on that gratitude. And I really appreciated what you said. I think I forgot to emphasize this earlier when you said that starting now, can prepare you for whatever's to come. As I say, you're either in the trial or you're being prepared for the trial. Hopefully you can start preparing for the trial, even if you're not in it right now, by just practicing now so that it's like a habit by the time you get there. Right? Yes. And then you moms get out there and teach it to your kids. I'll do that with my daughter all the time. She'll come home complaining. All right, now sit down and write 10 things you're grateful for about the day. You can tell me all the complaints, but I know, right? Oh, she's like, stop being a psychologist and just be my mom. I'm like, I am being your mom right now. This is exactly what I am doing as a mom. Yes. So everybody, you can do that. And I hope you'll all start just thinking about gratitude today and just even that it's in your brain right now. Go and think about or write down 3 to 5 things that you're grateful for right now and just get started. It's simple. Yeah, that simple. And see what it can do for you, like what it's done for Jen, taking her in a whole different way.
Yeah. Okay. It's changed the trajectory of my life. And gosh, that's an amazing thing.
Yes, it is. I'm excited to see where you go. So
thank you so much. Thank you so much.
No, pleasure. Thanks for being here. And for everybody tuning in, thank you all for coming to grow with us through motherhood each week instead of just going through it. One of the best ways we can grow through it is together and with gratitude. I mean, that's how you change a go to a grow, is to just be grateful for it and just see it as the opportunity instead of the obstacle, right? And so we'll see you all next time. You guys have a great week. Bye-bye.